Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to a brand new Let's Play for Hearts of Iron 4, and we are going to be playing as Greece. Specifically, we're going to be playing as Axis-aligned fascist Greece. Now, before I start, I want to say I've actually not yesterday, 2 days ago, I recorded 6 episodes for this, split in 2 different starts. And the reason for it is this: the national focus tree for Greece, as after the Battle of Bosporus expansion over here, is awesome. It's huge, it's very interesting. However, it's filled with absolute traps and gotchas and non-intuitive things. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy it's not, like vanilla Soviet Union over here, which I'd also just considered playing, but then I looked at the focus tree, I'm like, it's just too boring. It's just too boring. But the advantage of the vanilla ones, at least they were fairly clear. The Greece branch is filled, again, with things that, until you've done one playthrough, really not obvious what's going on. What am I talking about? I'm basically just disclaiming a few things over here, because when I start recording here, I might be a little confused as to what I've talked about before or not. So I want to clarify that, yeah, I've given this a couple of starts and they were kind of confusing. And I wanted to do it blind, but it turns out doing this blind was simply not going to work. So one of the national spirits we've got, for example, is the debt to the IFC over here, which is pretty crippling. The 15% extra consumer goods factories is terrible. The penalty to stability is really bad. So one of the things you're going to want to do is get rid of it. Now, if we go and look at devaluing the drachma over here, you can see one of the things it says is, oh, there's decisions that let us eventually get rid of the debt to the IFC. Okay, that's fairly clear. That's pretty cool. I like it. And then over here, there's a paying back our debts in bulk. Oh, okay. All right. So clearly paying back our debts is very important, right? It's clearly a very big part of our game. If we go down this right-hand branch. And I do. Between these two, one of our ideas we've got is this agrarian society right over here, which is cripplingly bad, so you've got to get rid of it. This one modifies it one way, this goes another way, and I thought that if we're going sort of fascist Axis war machine, it felt like going to the factory route felt better. And it does give us a little freebie mobilize the economy if we come down here, which is kind of nice. As opposed to more farming and that sort of thing. Right, so we're going down here, we're paying back our debts in bulk. Well, paying back in bulk must be better than just the payback. As far as I can tell, it's effectively the exact same. It's kind of weird. This pays back a quarter of a debt for 25 political power. This pays back half a debt for 50 political power. I think it might take slightly less long for the event to process, but it's effectively the same, so it's a little weird. But okay, so paying back debts is really important. So, on the first go through, I go through here, I start paying back debts to get rid of that national focus. Then you go over here to open up the country. And again, no idea what this means. Unlocks investment schemes decisions. What are they? No clue, right? Well, it turns out one of the things you can do is give the big old middle finger to some of the nations you owe debt to. For example, Great Britain and France, which sounded good to me since I'm going fascist. Well, if you give them the middle finger here, it just lets you just ignore their debt. You just eliminate the debt instantly without ever doing the payback route. So it's like, okay, so, the first one through, I spent all this effort trying to pay back my debts to France and Great Britain because it seemed really important, and it turns out I could have done it just basically for free on a route I was always going down. But it's not very clear. But I think worse than that is probably what happens with Metaxism over here. So if you grab Metaxism, which we're absolutely going to do, it gives us this national spirit Metaxism, which actually out of the box is not a great one. It prevents a lot of things. But then a bunch of things keep modifying Metaxism. You can see modifying over here, and then a bunch over here that modify Metaxism. And one of the things as well is once you have Metaxism, following in the footsteps of Giant has a note. It says if you pick this before you have, I think, completed Metaxism or something to that effect, this will remove Metaxism. It will eliminate that spirit. So it feels like, so you've spent some effort developing it, and you might have even gotten all the way down here. If you pick this, it just blows it up and gets rid of it. So it's like, okay, I need to make sure I get all the way down to reviving the Spartan warrior spirit, which sounds awesome. I mean, let's be clear, it sounds really cool. You do this, and this completes Metaxism, and then you can go following the footsteps of Giant without losing it. And then right after that, either in this event or the next one, I don't remember, you get an event pop-up that lets you choose between 2 branches of fascism, and one of them, which actually kind of sounds cooler in terms of the story that it seems to generate, just eliminates Metaxism anyway. So it turns, so I was like, well, I can't possibly do this until I finish this, so let's do that. And The thing is, I might still choose to go down this because, you know, reviving the Spartan warrior spirit just sounds really fun from a story point of view. But it turns out you don't actually have to stress about it if you don't want to go down that way. If you want to go down here faster, for example, if you want to be able to get the war goal to annex Bulgaria faster, you don't have to go down this way. You can just do this, and the decision that honestly the slightly cooler choice, which lets you ditch Metaxism, you can just go with that one, and no harm, no foul. So it's a little bit, yeah, that's why there was 2 false starts to this. Not because the game was going badly, but because some of these things literally cost... Oh, recruit the fascists is another big one. We have, where am I looking for? Over here. So just like we had in Bulgaria, we have these faction managements over here. And fascists is one of them. Right now, they're basically non-existent, so they don't show up in the list. But for each of these factions, you can befriend them or crush them. Befriending costs 250. So I'm like, oh, I want to befriend the fascists. That sounds like exactly what we're doing, right? So I spent 250 political power doing this. Well, it turns out that recruit the fascists over here just does that for you. Well, I was gonna say for free. I mean, it's 70 days, so that's 70 political power. But yeah, and I want to go recruit the fascists, A, because it sounds more correct for what we're doing, and B, because use the military actually sends us down a different branch that's not that doesn't give us the same sort of fascist choices, and in fact either makes us do our own faction or makes us join the allies over here. Basically, the own faction stuff here is, or I don't know if it's actually a faction, but it's really cool. But you can only use it if if the Austria-Hungary Empire has been built and the German Reich has revived the Kaiserreich. The only way that button will be lit, which will be pretty unlikely. So we clearly want to go here. But if you went through the trouble of befriending the fascists through your decisions, then you just wasted those points for nothing. So yeah, a little bit tricksy along the way. Anyway, with all that, general overview of this national focus tree over on the right. We do have our various armed forces branches over here. You know, get some XP, get some discounts to tech. One thing to note: if you're going to go down on Hellite Army, if you're going to go down the left-hand side and embrace modern warfare, notice it's got the 100% research boost for motorized. So if you're going to go down here, you probably want to make sure not to research the motorized first, because otherwise that 100% bonus won't do anything, because I don't think it carries over to mechanized. One's a prereq from another, but I think they really mean motorized, and then they have a completely separate one, for example, over here for mechanized. So if you are going to prefer this left-hand branch over here, make sure you don't research mobilized first, or motorized first. That's fairly common. A lot of trees have things like this. It's mostly only a problem with motorized because it's really the only singleton out there. Like for bonuses that give you, you know, research bonuses to artillery, for example, well, there's lots of artillery research that you can do. So always take a look. You use the search for motorized when you're looking at a new tree, because you might be able to get some discounts over there. And then, yeah, we have sort of an industrial branch over here. It's not as strong as the others. It takes a while before you get a bunch of free factories. You get some over here, for example, although we might go mining operations, and that gives you some as well. A lot of what we do over here is mostly we tweak some of the ideas that are crippling our industry in other ways. So yeah, not as many freebies. There's a little bit more industry over here, sort of a crossover between the political and the industrial branch, including the 4-year plan, which gives us a boost to constructing basically all the things, although we do lose some power gain. You have to complete this before January of 1938. I guess, you know, it's a 4-year plan, it's going to take a while to complete, so it sort of makes sense that they put a time limit in there. And yeah, the big branches, there's an election that's going on right now, actually. If we look here, in 25 days, the election will happen. We could, before the election finishes, we could arrest the king. It's a decision we can do, and if we do that, that's really where we go down the bring home the exiled Republicans, and we either compromise with the monarchists or we go full communist over here. We instead are going to do the king's government. Now, you can take right to rule over here, which really does align you a little bit more to the United Kingdom, but we're going to go Metaxism. In fact, I'm going to start with that. We're going to start with a fairly political branch over here. This is actually, even on the blind playthrough, I decided to do that, because if Bulgaria taught us anything, is that these trees are kind of designed that I think you probably want to hit the political focuses first, rather than the industrial ones, which is kind of the inverse to how I feel about most of the trees. Usually I want to go industrial first. A very important thing in these trees all the time is research. We have 3 research slots right now. Can we get more? Yeah, so we can get the Academy of Athens over here, which adds a research slot. Although it will take a while because, first of all, we're not rushing into the industrial branch, and if we want to go here, we have to either cooperate or crack down with the monopolies, and it requires that we go down either this full right side or this full left side and finish this middle bit. So this research slot's fairly far away. There's another research slot you can see here, expansion of Athens University, but that requires you to go down to use the military branch, which we're not. And then you're like, oh, so what? I'm only going to have 4 because I can take this. I'm not going to be able to take the 5th. Well, it's a little bit hidden. I'm trying to remember where it is. Somewhere... I'm sure it was somewhere in here. There it is. Cement Greco-German ties. It doesn't look like the icon of something that gives you a research slot, but there it is. Again, I love this Greece focus tree. Is really interesting, but really non-intuitive to try to navigate. So yeah, we'll be looking to cement Greco-German ties for ourselves. Now again, so this might incentivize us not keeping Metaxism, right? We might recruit the fascists and decide to go straight here rather than delve down this entire branch of Metaxism. The problem is, I kind of want to do the Spartan warrior spirit just because I think it's more interesting for the playthrough. Although again, whichever one of these two gives you an event with a choice, the non-Metaxis one actually sounds slightly more interesting. But I think we're going to go the Spartan warrior spirit. So we're not going to be getting our extra research slot for a freaking long time because I'm going to be going down here. And we're mostly going to be beelining that. Not completely, but mostly beelining down here. So we're going to start with the King's Government. Luckily, this is a 35-day focus, and it's actually a good number of 35-day focuses. Maybe I'm lying. These are all 70? Jeez. All right. Well, we'll see. Anyway, we've got that. Our national spirits, we do have George II here as our king. He hurts our stability, increases support for the unaligned. We've got all that debt over here, which cripples our economy by consuming a lot of consumer goods factories. The foreign monopolies also does that with the 20%. It's really rough. The shock plan actually does help a lot over here. Consumer goods factories gets reduced. More resource gets sent to market. Now, resources being sent to market is bad when we have a lot of military factories and we're trying to produce a lot of military goods. But right now, we actually have very few military factories whatsoever. We have 2 military factories, period. That's it. So we really don't need these resources. In fact, we're quite happy to offer them a lot to the market, and we're hoping that people are actually going to be buying these from us and providing us with civilian factories. So, for example, we're offering 34 aluminum to the market right now. Currently, no one is actually buying that, but we haven't unpaused or anything. So hopefully people will pick up our stuff and give us some commercial goods. So this part of the shock plan's not so bad right now. It will get reduced later on, which is what we're looking for, certainly. Also boosts our civilian factory construction speed, which is nice. Political instability sucks. And yeah, it's you know, we want to get rid of this, and we need to get rid of the problems with Republicans and the communists. And this agrarian society means we ain't got no one to recruit, and our factory output is the pits as well. So we'll be trying to burn through a lot of those as we go. Our division situation is actually kind of interesting. We've got 13 divisions over here, and actually I should point out even our leaders aren't bad. We got a field marshal here at level 3 with lots of different traits going on, and an upgrade waiting when we get some command power. And we've got 2 decent level 3 generals as well, which aren't too shabby. Both of them have the mountain bonuses, which is great because Greece is fairly mountainous, and troops aren't too bad. Not only that, but our templates are actually not too shabby either. We're not going to have to spend a ton of army experience getting these templates up to full strength. I mean, we've already got 18 combat width over here. We could go to a 20 combat width out of infantry, or we can just rip a couple out and then put in some line artillery in there. It's already got 2 support companies added in, so again, pretty close to some configuration. I don't know what our divisions are going to look like in this playthrough, but it's pretty close. I think we'll probably do something like 7-2, like 7 infantry, 2 artillery divisions, combat width 20, as opposed to the 40s here. But yeah, I think that's going to be pretty good. Our mountain divisions, of which I think we have 2 actually. And, you know, fairly chunky little divisions as is. We're going to want to tweak, that's okay. We do have 1, I think, division of cavalry, which, you know, they have the extra speed if we do want to go do a quick surround or maybe ninja some victory points really quickly. It is nice to have some slightly more mobile things. But the other thing, if we duplicate this, these are going to be great sort of garrison, like military police type divisions over here. Let me put, I like to use this thing over here, because the cavalry have extra suppression. We're going to want to pull out the recon detachment and probably add an MP company later on. but this is going to be really good for suppressing rebellion. I don't like that you can't go and change your default template for your garrisons until you've actually occupied some territory. It'd be nice to do that ahead of time, because, you know, I'll probably forget. It's probably defaults to our infantry, and that's not really ideal, and I really want it to go to the other one, and I'll probably forget, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll stay on top of that. So yeah, so divisions aren't too bad. Just to say whatever, I'll put them here. I mean, it's gonna be ages. We're not going to be ninjing a war over here. As per usual, the way I play, I do usually just use the national focus trees to mostly get some war justifications as opposed to doing it manually. We might do it manually at some point, although we have no ability to do that right now. Currently, we need 50% world tension to justify wars, and once we actually do grab Metaxism, you can see the where is it? Generate war goal tension limit plus 100%. So taking Metaxism is a very defensive sort of ideology, but then we can sort of whittle away at it, and then it eliminates it completely over here. So starting an early war isn't really much of an option for us, which is too bad, because we know Bulgaria would be very, very vulnerable. Our 3 research slots, we're going to do the typical thing, of course. We're going to get the basics in industry here and here, and we're going to grab this. Now, one of the things, actually, we will absolutely be grabbing a lot of this excavation tech, because while we don't have much in the way of industry in terms of actual factories, what we do have is a crap ton of resources. Compare Bulgaria that we just played, right, with the 3 aluminum, 1 chromium, and then eventually some decisions to add some more chromium. We are resource rich. In Attica over here, crap tons of resources, especially aluminum, and over here we've got crap tons more steel and chromium, and a little bit more chromium over here. The only thing we don't naturally have is oil. Yeah, more chromium there too. We don't have any oil. That's not going to be a problem at first, because we actually don't have, like, we don't have much from tanks, mechanized, motorized. We do have a bit of a navy. If we take a look over here, we've got a fleet. We've got a task force with 10 ships, heavy cruiser, 1 light cruiser, 8 destroyers. We have 6 subs, and I think, in fact, doing sort of subby kind of operations over here will be quite good. We will be dependent on Italy kind of beating the British Mediterranean fleet, because if they don't, I mean, we won't be able to do a stand-up fight against a real fleet, but we should be able to do some really good convoy harassment. We've got an admiral here. He starts at level 3 as well, which ain't too shabby. But yeah, civilian factory-wise, things are pretty rough. We don't have a lot. We've got currently 7 in total, but 5 are being used for consumer goods, because we currently need 60% of our total factories. That's civilian plus military. 60% of that, we need that number of consumer factories to produce consumer goods. It's really, really rough. I'm going to start with 2 extra civilian factories over here in Attica. We've only got the 40% infrastructure boost here. I considered pre-building some infrastructure, because it actually will give us a pretty good long-term investment. The more infrastructure you have in a state, the faster you build factories. But the math still supports, generally speaking, because of the cost of infrastructure, the sort of savings that you get from infrastructure doesn't really doesn't compensate for the cost. The other thing you can see here, because of our civilian economy, you've got the 25% penalty to, hang on, civilian factory construction speed. Why is it saying civilian economy has a penalty to infrastructure construction, but doesn't actually tell me it's got the civilian factory thing? Thing is, I know we've got a civilian factory boost over here, but I'm still confused about the lack of tooltip information. Anyway, we're going to start with a couple of those, then probably build some infrastructure, then go back to some more factories. One of the things is, as far as I can tell, unless some things are hidden behind a decision, we have no ways of getting free infrastructure. If we go down the communist route, we get a free infrastructure over there. Structure, it's interesting. There you go. Weird that it came up, even though I'd misspelled it. We'll have the 4-year plan, which gives us a boost to producing infrastructure, and that's it. Because over here, there's a bunch of free infrastructure if we go down the farming branch, and if we go down the communist branch, but that's it. So we are really going to be responsible for building our own. But I'll start with the civilian factories. It's going to be okay. We've got a couple of free dockyards. I'm going to just set them right now to convoy construction. We'll also make sure that those are there. We can pull back on that a little bit. We're also going to queue up support equipment, and I'm going to put it at the top and plan something like this. Because support equipment never goes obsolete. I'd rather build it ahead of time. And then, you know, because the infrastructure, or the infantry equipment and the artillery, eventually we replace those with higher versions. So pre-building that doesn't make much sense, but the pre-building the support equipment is okay. We could start some training on these guys right away. I mean, we have a desperate shortage of equipment. Once I unpause here, it should update this to really show us that. There it is. Desperate shortage of equipment. So training, in a sense, doesn't make sense because training uses up equipment, but at the same time, like, we're not going to be fighting immediately, and it might be nice to bank a little army experience.
Cool.
So I'm going to do that. I could do the shift click thing, but there's actually only one division that would actually exercise in that case. So I'm just going to click normally. We'll bank up something like maybe 20 army experience, and then we'll cancel that. So they're not really going to do much in the way of training, but I think it's still going to benefit us from having a few points ready to go. Anyway, we've gone ahead and unpaused now. Things are in pretty good shape. There'll be a little election because we're not going to arrest the king. The monarchists, I think, will come out ahead. And eventually they will... I think we're just going to be good friends with the monarchists, actually, for the entire game. I think there are still ways to get rid of the monarchy later on the fascism branch, but I don't remember if that's where we're going. I think that's one of the decisions when we choose between Metaxism and the other one from the event. I think that's where you sort of choose whether you keep your monarch around or not. Okay. I think that's it. We've got some planes, we've got some ships. We're not going to be exercising them right now because we actually don't have much in the way of fuel. It might be nice to bank a little bit of XP. These planes are pretty backwards. We do have some, though. Fighters and tactical bombers. One of the things you always have to make a decision of when you play Hearts of Iron is what your airplane loadout is going to look like. For example, like fighters versus heavy fighters, and also TAC bombers versus sort of close air support and naval bombers. So tactical bombers can do the job of close air support, naval bombers, and strategic bombers. It's not as good as any of those in any one of those jobs, but it's very flexible. TAC bombers also have better range than naval bombers and close air support. Less than strategic bombers, but they do have better range. Regular fighters are better than heavy fighters when you compare when it comes to fighting each other, and as well as per cost. Fighters don't have as much range. Heavy fighters let you project your air superiority over a larger area and can also provide cover for your attack bombers and your strategic bombers, for example. Heavy fighters, you can really think of it when you're trying to be aggressive because you're trying to provide fighter cover over enemy territory, and regular fighters are better when you're thinking more defensively because they're going to be stronger, but they'll really only be good at defending your territory because they can't reach too far out of there. I mean, it's not quite that simple, but we will have to make a decision about that at some point. We do already have some TAC bombers, so I don't know. Monarchists have won the election. Great victory for Greece. I like this. Our leader, his trait, he's currently a royal puppet. He's now going to be a royal... he's going to become an elected monarchist puppet instead. So, right now we have... it's tanking weekly stability. At least here it replaces it with increasing weekly stability, which is going to be kind of nice. So anyway, we're going to hit that button. We have no choice, and that's going to be okay. Troops are in position, getting the training very slowly. That's going to be okay. We'll try to remember to give these guys some promotions before we sort of cap this out. We've got some good ones available over there. King's Government and Speed 5, yeah. So it took us a little while to unpause, but I think there were some good discussions about the ideas. So that's done. Gives us some stability right away, which is great. And then, yeah, we have to choose the right to rule versus Metaxism. We're going to go Metaxism. Boom, 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 done. And I'm going to commit the whole way so that we can go to the Spartan warrior spirit because, I mean, it's got the word Spartan in it. Now, our economy, laws are pretty low end over here. We do have a little bit of conscription, which is interesting. Currently, we have malices to our manpower, which is why we ain't got none. But if we can get rid of some of those malices, mostly from the agrarian society, we will get some manpower pretty quickly. We might not rush to change the economy itself because we can get a freebie change over here to partial mobilization. Now, I don't know. That's another thing that's not clear. I guess it's 2 steps up. As I say, I don't know if it just ups it by 1 level, but no, I think it does actually set it to partial mobilization. So, in terms of more efficient political power, we're not going to want to change these economy laws ourselves. And actually, as it turns out, as Greece here, we're going to have a ton of political power sinks, so we really won't have the points to increase our economy manually anyway. UK revisits that. We are playing with historical AI focuses off, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Yeah, I don't know how quickly we're going to get this. We'll see. Especially if we're focused down the political branch. Oh, one of the things as well is if we join a faction, we will lose our Metaxism spirit until we finish reviving the Spartan warrior spirit. So that's one of the reasons I'm thinking of rushing down to reviving the Spartan warrior spirit, is because until we've done that, we can't join a faction without losing Metaxism. So I really do want to focus this, even though it is going to, hurt our economy in other ways. I think this is one of the factions and things that we can go with, depending on what political branch we go down. But this doesn't hurt us at all. We weren't interested in Vinny over here, so we'll gain our base stability, and it lowers the popularity of democracy, which we're totally fine with, 100%. Research slot available. We're going to grab mechanical computing right away. Thank you very much, and keep that going. We'll go a little bit longer here, just in this initial setup episode. How much do we actually need for promotion? I don't remember how much it costs. It's 15. I do like charismatic. I love division recovery rate. I really feel like there's a huge payoff to that. And we are also going to take, I think, offensive doctrine over here. And I'm going to be pleased with that. We still have to promote our generals. We'll do that soon. Metaxism is in. So we've got a new leader for the non-aligned party. Not terribly useful, really. It does keep the democracy and communism down, which we're going to appreciate. Acceptance of fascist diplomacy. I think that's just for, like, the AI. That they're more willing to accept offers from, like, Germany and whatnot. I think. So we got this national spirit. Metaxism does give us some stability, but then basically makes us not be able to start any shit at all, including the AI would not join a faction at all. So this is a very internally facing sort of plan. I'm going to go 4-year plan immediately for the production boosts, and then what we're going to do is we're going to keep going down this right-hand branch. So, I mean, I said I was going to rush down the political branch, and that is mostly true, but we're going to do some of the other things. I'm going to turn this off. Well, actually, okay, I don't run these. We're not going to need these. I may do one batch of improved worker conditions. I'm not sure, because we do need quite a bit of political power. Our stability is low right now, but we're going to be modifying it through quite a few things. Because right now, it's losing... So, yeah, maybe we'll run it one time. But maybe not right away. No, I think it's worth doing it right away. The faster we can get our stability up a little bit, the faster we can get rid of some of this penalty to political power gain, for example. So that might be kind of handy-dandy. Okay, 4-year plan is going. Second London Naval Treaty, so that's pretty standard. In terms of dispersed versus concentrated industry, again, they're pretty overlappy between the two. We do have a little bit more bombing resistance on dispersed. I suppose it's very possible that we might be facing a lot of bombing from the RAF on this playthrough. We might want to do this. Because they've got an airbase in Malta. I'm going to dispersed. They're both pretty good for different reasons anyway. Concentrated has slightly higher pure output, but the retention and things from the dispersed is fine and nice. So it's going to be okay. I mostly just try to alternate from game to game. But mathematically, they're very similarly stacked. Okay, that's actually really good for us. The Bulgarian government condemns the IMRO. So actually, here's a good indicator. Clearly, when the AIs playing Bulgaria, they are currently focusing on political things. They've gone, I guess they went oppose the royal dictatorship, then they went condemn, then they went here, right? Where when we played, we went very much down the industrial branch. And as I was saying at the end of that gameplay, I'm like, I think the political branch actually needed to be focused earlier, and you can see that's what the AI is doing here. This is really good, because if they'd supported the Macedonian organizations, that would have led to a little bit of chaos within us. We would have actually had basically occupation, like we would have had civil unrest in our territory over here, and that would have been really annoying to deal with. Now, it does mean these guys aren't going fascist, most likely, right? I don't think they can go, yeah, I mean, they might bop around. Well, they are appointing communist ministers, so they're definitely not going down democratic principles. And I think I'm okay with that, actually, because I'm okay with having Bulgaria be a war target for us. Okay, we're not in 37 yet. I'm going to grab the excavation. Again, if we can send more goods to market and have more people import them and get some more factories out of it, that'll be really nice. Until people start ramping up their military production, it's unlikely that they are going to be having to import resources. But as they build more military factories and need more goods, hopefully they'll come to us. I'm going to run the improved worker condition one time, and I'm going to be fairly pleased with that. It'll give us a nice boost to our stability. We'll eat, more of our consumer goods factories for now. Oh no, it's not like we got any anyway. 4-year plan is done. So, actually, I could just purge the debt really fast. Probably is a good idea. If I take this, I can GG out of the debt to the UK and France. I could take devaluating the drachma and then work through our debt to Italy. Although, again, I'm annoyed because it's got this pay back our debts in bulk. But cost-wise, it's exactly the same. That might be a good idea. Because then we can get rid of the thing that's eating 15% of our civilian factories here. It might be enough to free up an extra one, which would be, because right now we've got 2 factories working. If we can go up to 3 factories working, that's a 50% boost to our civilian factory output. I mean, the math checks out, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty sick. So I think I'm going to be okay with that, but after that, I think we really do need to burn through the Metaxism if we're going to go down that branch. Rhineland, leadership purges over there. Turkey, you still have a demilitarized zone over here. That's interesting. Anything else we know about? Unknown, let's say fire, unknown, limited rearmament. I don't think there's anything terribly exciting going on in the world. Oh, there we go. Now they're going down the industrial branch. But they have gone and appointed communist ministers. So they're pretty much pinned in to the communist route, which I think I'm more than fine with. All right, folks, we are going to go and put a cut in here. I'm very much looking forward to this Let's Play. I think now that I know some of the gotchas in this tree. I still don't know what the fastest, most efficient, most proper, most optimized way to go through this tree is, but hopefully there's not going to be any gotchas that result in a bunch of waste anyway. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm looking forward to next time, and if you are new to the channel, of course, subscribe, upvote, comment, things that are good. Bye-bye.